Well, jury selection gets underway tomorrow in the first criminal trial connected to the botched law enforcement response to the Uvalde school shooting. 21 people, 19 children, and 2 teachers were shot and killed when a gunman stormed Robb Elementary School in May 2022. A subsequent DOJ investigation listed, quote, cascading failures that day. One of the first school district police officers to arrive on the scene will stand trial first. Fox 4's Vanya Castillo is covering that story for us tonight and is live with what to expect. Hi, Vanya.
Hi, Casey. Yeah, we sat down with a criminal defense attorney to explain to us what we should be expecting, what we should be looking for, and how this impacts all of us.
Those parents want someone held accountable.
More than 3 years after 19 students and 2 teachers were killed at an Uvalde elementary school, someone will stand trial. Former Uvalde CISD police officer Adrian Gonzalez was one of the first to arrive at the scene of the mass shooting. He's pled not guilty to 29 counts of abandoning and failing to protect children.
And the fact that there was a 77-minute delay in engaging with that shooter, they want police officers held accountable. This officer is the only one that had that training probably and was one of the first to arrive.
Of the more than 300 local, state, and federal officers who responded to Robb Elementary, only Gonzalez and former Uvalde School's police chief Pete Arredondo faced charges. Prosecutors say Gonzalez ignored his training and failed to act. His defense insists he was focused on helping other children escape.
This is a very unique case because I think this is maybe the second time an officer's been tried under this theory of being held criminally responsible for not acting, for an omission rather than an act that he's done.
Monday, jury selection begins in Gonzalez's trial. Because of the scale of the tragedy and the attention it's received, the trial was moved from Uvalde to a court in Corpus Christi.
Too many people, small county, were touched by that. So the moving the trial is significant in that the officer has a chance of a more fair jury pool, and there won't be as much pressure on the jury there as there would be if it took place where the shooting actually happened.
Attorneys will choose from an unusually large pool, 450 potential jurors.
Shows exactly how they're expecting a lot of people to be disqualified or to say they formed an opinion in some way.
This phase of the trial is not about deciding guilt or innocence. It's about determining who can fairly hear the evidence in a case where many people already know the story.
It's all right if they've seen the news because most people will have seen something about it, but it's whether they have formed an opinion about the verdict that's the key question.
Attorneys on both sides will question jurors closely about what they've seen, what they know, and whether they can be fair.
Honesty is very important. It's important in any jury selection, but especially this one about what you've seen and what your true opinions on it are.
Jury selection could take days before testimony begins, and how it unfolds will shape everything that follows.
I think the rest of the country will care and must care because there were children murdered. And it's a situation that's happened again and again in this country, and they want it to stop.
Well, after jury selection, the trial itself is expected to take several weeks. We are expecting to hear from witnesses as well as experts, and they will be taking the stand. Now, family members of the victims are saying that they will be headed to Corpus Christi, and we will have extended coverage inside of that courtroom in the days to come. Back to you, Casey.
Yeah, so many eyes will be watching this. Fox 4's Vanya Castillo. Vanya, thank you.